And welcome everyone back to I Love Black People. And we're just so blessed today to have someone who means so much to our community, means so much to my life, and has been a mentor, guide, and a good steward. I don't think you say stewardess, but good steward. This sister is so amazing and it's been so dedicated that I'm just so happy to introduce her to all of you. Her name is Clev Mesidor. We're going to be talking about some very important issues related to blockchain, politics, and quite a few other issues. I've told her she has free range. She's probably the person who's done most to help improve my ability to communicate in good times and in crisis management times.
Help protect us from racism and xenophobia by becoming an I Love Black People ambassador today. Join on iloveblackpeople.com. No matter where you are in the world, join us today and get access to the I Love Black People network. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.
So I just want to introduce and welcome good sister Clev Mesidor. Thank you for joining us on I Love Black People.
Thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, look, I didn't want to just mess up the intro with not giving them your just due. But if you can go ahead and share your background with our audience, and then we can get into the juicy stuff.
I'm thrilled to be here. I lead the National Policy Network of Women of Color in Blockchain. I'm also a consultant for the Blockchain Association. And like you, Sinclair, I'm a Howard alumni. So it's great to be on with a fellow Bison. My background, is in Washington politics. Obviously, our lives have intersected in terms of Washington politics. I, ran for office a long time ago, but the core of my background in Washington, I worked in Congress for 2 members, and I was an Obama presidential appointee. And actually, that is how I learned about Bitcoin. When I was a presidential appointee for President Obama, I was at the Department of Commerce working on economic development, and you reached out and asked me to help you with a press release for a Bitcoin project. Had not heard of Bitcoin, but I did the research, helped with the press release, and it stayed within my periphery, but I did not actually get engaged until about 2015, 2016. And I remember you talking to me about Steam because of the alignment with my work as a content creator. And so went down the rabbit hole, and here I am. I've been blessed to be able to work at the intersection of politics and crypto. And last year I published a book called The Clevolution: My Quest for Justice in Politics and Crypto, where I talk about, the synergies between the two worlds. So it has been great. And so now I focus on public policy for crypto. I focus on, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And also I focus on economic empowerment.
We got to definitely add your book to the Black Blockchain Summit. With all your accolades, one of them is helping to inspire and guide us on the first Black blockchain. I just remember crying on your shoulder about how crazy it was. You're like one of those stern, steadfast. They can't tell you sound so lovely, like a dainty flower, but look, that Claire don't play. Like, you get it together, brother. It's gonna, this is how it is. Well, you should have spent more money on. Look, this was gonna happen. So definitely, I appreciate your sternness, your steadfastness, and at the same time, willing to listen and giving the appropriate mentor, guidance, suggestion, helpful friendliness in the way that you do, Clev, that is Clevolution. So we definitely got to add that. We got Bitcoin Zay's book on there. I just would be remiss not to have what you're doing and making sure that we're aware, especially, as sexist as many of these tech spaces are and misogynistic, again, I'm on my journey to be better than I was yesterday. And I know I've been not as good as I need to be today, but I think you've had to deal with so many things that you, instead of internalizing it, you've done it to make, to use it to make it better for other folks that come behind or beside you. What are some of the hot things that you are dealing with right now? I know you have some really interesting work you've been doing that no one else could do it the way you're doing it, and may not get the publicity, but I think it's important for our community that follows us to actually have this information, because they need that to make decisions. So what have you been up to? And I know there's been some really interesting things.
Yes, yeah. So lots of exciting things happening. So before I go into details, I'll give you a synopsis. So obviously I work in the crypto space with you, and right now we're in the thick of a policy battle around the infrastructure bill. And so the Senate just voted, and I was part of the public policy team. As I mentioned, I work with the Blockchain Association. We coordinated with Coin Center and others to really fight this provision that was in the pay for of the bill. We had a senator from Alabama block our amendment, but now the fight goes to the House. Before I go into that, I this weekend I was in Atlanta for a Haiti event. And so my worlds are so chaotic. So crypto is chaotic right now because we're fighting this huge regulatory battle. And your listeners know about the craziness in Haiti right now. Haiti has not had a sitting president assassinated in over 100 years. And so, my homeland is trying to move forward. And so I'm thrilled to also note that I'm working with the Embassy of Haiti in DC, and I'm actually working on organizing a blockchain forum for them in September. So, and this will be for diplomats, for the diplomatic corps, to help them learn about blockchain cryptocurrency and what are some of the opportunities for Haiti's future. So those are the two big things that are on my plate. But let's go back to
I think something that's got to be said about you, and again, when I get out of pocket, I'm clear you put me back. The fact that this is a technology, even when the way you're discussing it, you have I think, and you have a superpower that allows you to connect something that might seem a bit esoteric and far away to everyday real activities, real context to life, and in dealing with these people in this tech space. And I'm an engineer by profession, so I'm used to dealing with cuckoo birds who have no social skills. So not only are you dealing with racists, you're dealing with racists who are awkward. Like, they're already awkward just among their own group, and then you add on the rest of race to it, they real out of pocket. You're dealing with some really difficult spaces that somehow get mystified because of technology, but you're really applying them to the realities of this world. And I just think, again, for our listeners who may look at tech, to realize that these are just tools, and we have to be good citizens. We have to be good human beings. We have to somehow take any of all these things and apply them in a way that makes it real different to the things that we care about. And not saying you don't care, I don't care about Bitcoin or digital, but we really care about our people. And if we do that, that should manifest in every field of human endeavor we choose. And I think you've been such an incredible role model in that. I think the reality is the communities that you so often champion are those least likely to even understand some of the things you're doing. And I'm not trying to give you any more flowers than need be, but I think you need some flowers, some trees. We got some bushes for you, because that's what we require. We're dealing with some of these cuckoo birds on the tech side as well as on the political side. So how does this now apply to some of the recent things you've done on the Hill with this infrastructure bill? That people hear about it and they think of roads, they think of the filibuster and some of the Republicans blocking things, and the fact that there's little nuances where people will add certain things. I'm not asking you to give us a civic lesson per se, but it would be interesting if you said, like, how does an infrastructure bill include something like bunny rabbits? Like, how does it include something with crypto? If you can maybe just say what that because that's something that happens all the time, and I think people don't know about it. And since you've lived in these spaces so often, you don't think much of it. But for the person listening, they're probably like, infrastructure and crypto, how, and this happens in so many bills. So I don't want them to think, oh, this has happened this one time.
Yeah.
This is happening every day with these bills. So can you share a little of that?
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. People are just like, oh my God, crypto is in the infrastructure bill. What? And I'll be honest, it would be great if crypto was part of the infrastructure bill because digital infrastructure is important, but that's not where crypto ended up. So as you know, President Biden committed to paying for the infrastructure bill. He was going to find the money somehow. So crypto is in the pay for section of the infrastructure bill, right? So the pay for section is where he determines where he's going to pay for it. And in the pay for section, he determined that he could get $28 billion from the crypto community based on having more stricter tax reporting requirements, right? And so let's be clear for your audience. The crypto community pays its taxes, and those who don't should. But exchanges have to report. And so this was not about should people in the crypto community, people who own crypto pay taxes. This was about how is the Biden and Congress getting to 28 billion, right? So they looked at two things. They said, okay, the reporting requirements have not been strict enough. So there are a lot of people who should be paying who haven't been paying, right? So how do we go back to the brokers who are the, Binance US, Gemini, Kraken, Coinbase? Although I hate saying that word or that name.
Yeah, Coinbase is terrible. I'm not going to let you say, but Coinbase has treated their people terrible. And Brian Armstrong, you got to do better. You need to be ashamed of that. And we're not having it. Now, we've been with you from day one, and what you've done ain't right. So, we might leave a chair for you, might not. We might turn that chair over, and you might have to make one because you done tore your drawers with us over there in Coinbase. So I just want to say that. I don't want you to have to say. I'll say that. It's a bad thing you've been doing to Black folks over there.
I echo that. So fine, right? They're saying that, the IRS needs to be stricter with the brokers. Again, the exchanges, the Coinbase, Gemini US, and, Kraken and such. But this is also retroactive. How do we also make sure that that now that we have stricter requirements, that we go back to make sure they have always been compliant? That's not even the worst part of this whole, how do we get to $28 billion? They sought, the infrastructure bill sought to expand the definition of broker to individuals. So it wasn't just your large exchanges. Now they want to expand the definition of of brokers to miners, to validators, to software and hardware developers, to wallet makers, right? And for me, that's where the Black and Latinx folks in crypto are, right? That's where those micro enterprises are. When you look at your Guap coin that's created a wallet, or even, Hill Harper just created a wallet, Black Wall Street. So when you look at these things and, Bitmari in terms of that wallet, when you look at these projects, that is where now they want to treat them like the brokers, right? So you can't treat, Guap coin or Bitmari or the Black Wall Street wallet the same way you do Gemini. So that's where the battle was, right? It was about how you're actually trying to get $28 billion on the backs of these micro enterprises, and how do we create amendments to pull them out? So we actually advanced about 3 different amendments to say, let's get rid of the individuals, right? We understand the exchanges, but it's not fair. We even got to a bill where one of the amendments by Senator Warner that was backed by the White House and the Department of Treasury wanted to make a distinction between validators, right? Whether you were proof of stake or proof of work, right? They wanted to say, we'll exclude proof of work, but we're going to keep proof of stake. What? Are you crazy?
Oh, so Bitcoin is going to be saved? Don't look like this. These are Bitcoin nationalists. I may not. Wait a minute.
Exactly.
Asante.
Yeah.
Ah!
So we went to war on that one and we said, oh, hell no. And I have to tell you, as the crypto community really band together, we got a lot further than we were. We said no to that amendment. And then we had to get to a compromise, this watered down that, I had to give it up to, again, Black Chain Association and Coin Center, but Senator Wyden, who is a Democratic senator, who the First Amendment took out all of our folks, right? Took out the validators, took out the wallet developers, and such. So by the time Warner countered that and said, we're going to keep some of them, as you're making a distinction between, in the case of, proof of work versus proof of stake, then we had to come to a last amendment, which was the watered down, which would say that some of the individuals would still be registered as brokers, but not all of them. Not ideal, but Sinclair, Washington, you have to come up with a compromise. So yesterday, after Senate action took hold, the only way to get this watered down amendment was to do a unanimous consent vote. That means the Senate had to come in, unanimous consent, that all 100 members had to say, we're going to back this amendment. Again, for the crypto community, it was not ideal, but at least it got some of our individuals out of that broker piece. So yesterday, UC vote, unanimous consent, right? So we're thinking, oh my God, Senator Warner, who has been on crypto lately because of climate change, oh, she's gonna, dissent. Nope. So we actually went into it. All of the usual suspects who think would dissent didn't. So we're just like, ooh, we're about to be saved. Guess who dissents? Senator Shelby from Alabama. So
I know him too. He used to be a Democrat back in the day. He was one of those blue dog Democrats. And when Newt Gingrich had like his revolution, he already was sorry. So he literally went from being a Democrat because they lost all their leadership posts, and then he became who he actually was. But anyway, God bless you.
And we would be fine if he came at us and said, oh, I hate crypto. We're not going to, make an amendment for the crypto community. His dissent was, I reserve my right to dissent if you add my amendment. His amendment was killed. His amendment, he wants to add an additional $50 billion in defense spending to the infrastructure bill. And he essentially said, if you add my amendment, I won't dissent. Right? So he's like, I'll let this crypto thing go to unanimous consent as long as you include my $50 billion in defense spending. And so that's when you had, Senator Sanders stand up and said, I'm going to have to dissent on that. So if you include that in this amendment, I'm going to have to dissent. So then it went, okay, so let's take Shelby's amendment out, right? Because your listeners should know that the Senate is just 100 members. So that's where minority rule. At any given time, one member can dissent. So Senator Sanders was like, cool, you take out Shelby, I'm not dissenting. Well, Shelby's like, oh, if you take Shelby out, I'm dissenting. So Shelby held us hostage. He torpedoed us just because they wouldn't give him the $50 billion in defense spending. So because he dissented, the amendment did not go. The original language now stands that includes, again, validators, hardware and software developers and wallet creators. So now it goes to the House. We'll have to have this battle again in the House. But for your listeners, they have to understand the infrastructure bill is already at the point of reconciliation. So it went to the Senate. So now the Senate has voted. It passed today. It goes to the House so that the House can do very little changes so it can go to reconciliation and that it can pass, right? So for crypto, we don't have a lot of avenues for the House to move forward with an amendment to strike this. They would have to send the bill back again to the Senate to vote, send it back to the House. So the good news is the House is in recess. We have a few weeks before they come back to figure out a pathway forward. We know that, the Biden administration wants to move this bill forward, and we know how important infrastructure is, but you don't have to do it on the backs of micro enterprises, small players in crypto, right? Hold the large players accountable. But here is, for me as a Black woman in crypto, I'm just like, really? This whole move to get to $28 billion, you're going after, small players. And there's the sense that, when they think of who miners are and software developers are and whatever, they think of privileged little kids in their parents' basement, with all this technology. And in some cases that's true, but it is also those of us who came to crypto because of the diminished barriers to entry. So as we look to move forward, we want to find a way to come to resolution on the House side. But if we can't, the crypto community should be ready for very stringent tax reporting requirements. And at the end of the day, let's be honest, miners, validators, software developers, they can't comply, because what the IRS is saying, these stricter reporting requirements requires for them to submit a 1099. Well, how are you going to submit a 1099 when you're not collecting name, social, address, and all of that, right? If you're a software developer or even a hardware developer, you're creating a product that goes out. Now you're creating, and that's where the conversation about civil liberties and surveillance came up, is when you expand the definition to these individuals who can't comply, forcing them to now have to gather personal information, privacy information, and then report it out, you're creating a difficult issue, which is, again, one of the reasons we need to do, more education. And we need for Congress to understand that, we understand that crypto is disrupting the US monetary system and that we have to find a solution, but you can't just go willy-nilly, because then you're creating problems where you don't need a problem. There were other ways to get to this, 28 billion.
And it seems like, again, it's nose in the face cut off, and like you said, a lack of information. And when we talk about it in our community, it's we're like victims, it's so sad. But people with power being that ignorant is problematic, because now they're literally hurting people through their lack of knowledge, and innovations being hurt. Like you said, opportunities because of the low barrier of entry for some of these technologies. And if a regular business had to collect Social Security data on everybody that bought an Apple, or everybody whose software was created and downloaded from the Apple store, I mean, we're really starting down a slippery slope that they could, use this as the entree into this space. But next thing you know, every time you're on Amazon or anything else, they're getting your Social Security. They're going through all kinds of things that, you just wanted to get Netflix. And next thing you know, they're trying to get all these information on you and tracking your every move and what you're doing. And now, Big Brother is definitely, and if we, don't think we live in a surveillance society now, you're really talking about a surveillance society where only the biggest players will have the capacity to meet those requirements, and the small folks that really make the backbone of all business, the small business, is going to get squeezed out because they just don't have the infrastructure. It's hard enough just to keep the lights on. If I got to now do hourly reporting on all said information, I mean, Chris. So where do we go from here? I thought we were going to have some good news, but this seemed like some funny stuff, bad news. Where are we with the next steps? Is there a time frame? Do you see that on the horizon that this is going to be something in September? Is this something October? They're going to try to get it wrapped up before the next big recess. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the House is in recess because the next step is for the House to act. They are in recess for August, but we anticipate that they'll come back the last week of August to take up this bill. So we have a few weeks. One of the biggest ways we succeeded on the Senate side was the phone calls. Over 40,000 people, folks in the crypto community, startups, crypto holders, people who just own crypto called and called and called their senators. Over 40,000 calls in just 1 week was unprecedented. We need to keep that pressure on the House side, but we also need to keep pressure on the Department of Treasury. We saw Yellen step in and try to negotiate that Warner amendment that would have made a distinction between proof of work and proof of stake. We know that the White House worked with Senator Portman to put in this provision to begin with and do it without any consultation with the crypto community. So we need folks to keep calling now the House, but we also need them to engage the Department of Treasury and the White House to let them know that this is not a fix. And as you said, the big players, the large exchanges with all of their attorneys and money will find loopholes. They'll find a way. This will just kill the innovation opportunities for the micro enterprises. So stand by. We'll have a sense of when the House will be back in session. We anticipate, again, it will probably be at the end of August, because I know they want to move quickly with this bill. But there will be more information, because we will have to activate again. But we'll also need to be very strategic, because right now we're looking at the rules and regulation. We don't want what happened in the Senate to happen here. We didn't lose in the Senate. We actually won, but we got torpedoed because of some defense, and because of the rules piece. So stand by, because we're going to need everyone to activate, because most people don't realize they're coming after the little guys, the micro enterprises, the entrepreneurs.
Thank you again, Sister Claire.
Thank you.
And thank you. And as we leave here saying, I am because we are, but I definitely am because Claire is. So thank you, Sister Claire, for all your support of me. So thank you, everybody.
I am because we are.
Help protect us from racism and xenophobia by becoming an I Love Black People ambassador today. Join on iloveblackpeople.com. No matter where you are in the world, join us today and get access to the I Love Black People network. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.